It's about that time. Holla holla. It's your boy George Billionaire, and today is gonna be an amazing day. I don't know about you, but every single Monday I feel a renewed sense of purpose, looking back at what you would have achieved last week and being a better version of yourself this week. Now last week we were talking about nothing changes until you change. If you haven't watched that, go on the Hustle Hard series and look that up, and we spoke about a lot of things. And today we're going to be talking about something that has defined so many people, and a lot of people are defined by outside sources and not by internal sources. Whose opinion matters? Whose opinion has defined you to being the person that you are today? I'm excited. Make sure you watch this right until the end and watch all the episodes we've ever done. I tell you, you will be provoked, inspired, and equipped. I guarantee you, following this channel and following me will transform the way you think about yourself, the way you talk, and most importantly, the knowledge that you will get. More so when you apply it, it will drastically change you, so many people around you, especially when they begin to see you succeed in anything that you do. Hustle hard. Let's go.
Live here on Capital 100.4 FM. It is time for us to get into Hustle Hard with George Billionaire. And yes, the WhatsApp is buzzing. I love it when the WhatsApp is buzzing. That means people are attending class. People are here. So class is in session. But in case you missed out on what we were talking about last week, don't worry, we have got you covered. We have to have you covered because this topic actually came out from what we were talking about last week. George, how you doing?
Holla holla. It's your boy George Billionaire, with none other than Nash on Capital 100.4 FM.
That's right.
Harare's heartbeat, the place to be, not only today,
George, why
but
are you always on
every
a microphone? That's
other-
not the microphone.
but every other day. And we're here to keep things going. We're here to provoke. We're here to inspire. And we're here to equip people so that we can keep things going the way they are supposed to go. Right, so it's always good to be here on Monday, and we're here. And last week we had an amazing week, and we were talking about nothing changes until you change. And this is a new year, and the old you is passed away, and there's the new you, which is in 2025.
That's right.
So we gotta keep updating our softwares.
Yes.
We gotta keep updating ourselves. You know, I love it every time my phone updates its software. You know that there's a new this and that.
It's gonna do something differently.
Something's been
It's gonna
tweaked
do
up,
something
you
better.
know, on your phone, on your, and it's the same thing with our mindset. So every Monday we're getting a software update here on Hustle Hard to ensure that we don't remain the same. So that we get into this year hard, we get into this year focused on executing the things that we're supposed to change. And this year, you know, I've said it so many times, and I will say it again. The only person who's responsible to where you end up is nobody else other than you.
Yourself.
You listening to us, you watching us, you are only responsible for where you end up. And it's a deliberate choice and action you are going to take this year going on that's going to determine where and who you end up being. So it's important that we gotta change, like we spoke last week, we gotta change some of our associations. Some of us are carrying too much luggage of unproductive people on our journey to a destination called success.
Yes.
And we won't reach that destination as long as we still have that unnecessary luggage. You know, I always love the story about Jonah in the Bible, where he was going the wrong direction and people, you know, were messed up because of him. But as soon as he got out of the ship, people began to sail smoothly.
So he was baggage.
He was baggage, and he was baggage that was costing those people a lot. So do a serious introspect of some of the people you call friends, some of the people you are tagging along with in this journey called life, which only you are responsible where you end up, because you get to choose who you are with. You are the CEO of your life. You recruit or fire people dependent on their productivity, their inspiration, their motivation, their encouragement, and those who are doing the opposite, murmuring, complaining, not adding any wood to your fire, always giving you excuses, settling for average, relying on one stream of income. Get rid of those people and deliberately associate with people that will help you to become a better, more productive, and at mostly a successful individual.
That's right.
So we won't change as individuals until we make a deliberate stance to change. We got to start reading books. We got to start doing all those hard things now, for that we can have a more better life in the future. Whatever you don't choose to do now, which is hard, is going to certainly determine that your life will always be hard. So do some of those things that are hard now, and I can guarantee you with that change, which is hard now, your life will be easy in the future.
That's right. So today we are talking about, you had mentioned in the recap, but you need to get rid of dead weight, essentially. Get rid of people who are not adding fuel to your fire, wood to your fire, right? And so there are certain people like that in our lives that sometimes we're not capable of easily identifying, so because they come disguised as family. They come in the form of friends, they come in the form of colleagues, so sometimes they do a good job of making it seem like they're adding to your life, but in the long term, in hindsight, when you look back, you're like, no man, I could have done without that. That was actually such a big detour, listening to the advice of that person, or the guidance, or what I thought was guidance from that person, which is why we're talking today about whose opinions in your life should matter. So let's get into it. How do we start by identifying, first and foremost, before we start to take in their opinions, who are the people that we should be focused on?
Okay. All right. So whose opinion matters to you? That's an amazing quote, which I think a lot of people are really affected by the opinions of many people. There are people today who are affected by what people say they are wearing, what they are looking like,
Preach.
what car they are driving,
Preach.
which neighborhood they are staying in. Yet, the person giving you an opinion about you does not understand that we all have different stories in this journey called life.
Exactly.
And one thing about life is that, I'm sure if you understand nature, there are what are called times and seasons. There are flowers which germinate at certain times and blossom at other times. And all of us were made differently. God specifically sent Nasipi on this planet for a specific purpose, so that when Nasipi sees George flourishing and blossoming and succeeding, it doesn't mean the time George is succeeding is the same time she should be succeeding.
Amen.
Because
George.
there are certain times for everything that happens on this earth. But when people now take these opinions and try and, say that, listen, if she's flourishing, I should flourish. Or if they say, no, you know what, you shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do it. Takes me back to many years ago in 2012, when I resigned from where I used to work to begin the journey with Pro Air. I remember my own dad, Nicodemus Munengwa. Shout out to my dad. I love him to bits. I believe God used my father at a very key specific time in my life.
Put him on blast.
And we always laugh about this because of my father being employed with the city of Harare for 35 years. He never believed so much in entrepreneurship. Therefore, when I told him I'm resigning from work, my own dad, remember, I told him, Dad, I'm now going on a journey less traveled. I now have twins. They are demanding a lot more than the $300 salary. And I'm beginning to think of going on a journey less traveled. And I remember my dad had 2 consecutive dreams about me and a lot of conversations and talks sitting me down in the car. The first dream was, George, I dreamt of you with tattered clothes, and now you had moved to come and stay at my house with your wife and kids. I think, George, seriously, you should consider this decision that you have made and remain in employment because I don't think this is going to work out. That was the first time. The second time, he came back, similar conversation. But what I got out of this, and I remember for a time my response to my dad was that, Dad, I love you very much, but the next time you have a dream such as that, please keep it to yourself and don't communicate such, because I believe that this is going to work. Now, a lot of people out there are not very bold in such regards, because they care so much about the opinions of people they deem to be very dear to them. I don't know who else you can say that to. There are father figures in our society where if you say that to them, they'll tell you to leave their house or whatever it is. But for me, I was at a time where things were not okay, and I had to follow my gut and not people's opinions. There are many friends who said, George, Pro A is not going to succeed. Leave this, just stay in employment and get that little to get you by. But for me, because of the conviction I had, because of also the people who were surrounding me at the time, who were encouraging me and pushing me towards that direction, I began to choose who to listen to and who not to listen to. Now, in our journey called life, there's this amazing quote which says, whoever you give your ear to, you give your heart to. So we listen a lot to people who have nothing to do with what our future is going to be like, and ultimately they then determine and shape what our life is, and we never get to realize our full potential. And with that said, I can only imagine, I've had so many conversations with my dad now that Pro A is 12, 13 years going.
Imagine.
Saying, Dad, do you remember the time?
Remind him.
Yeah, you remember the time you said this? And we've been to so many award ceremonies. I remember the first ones I used to get awards. My dad would be like, what do you do to get these awards? Do you pay for them? Because there were a couple at a time that were coming, and I kept wanting to say, Dad, remember?
That is so crazy.
To prove, but then
that he's still in disbelief, even though he can see.
He then came to a realization, and I remember this conversation so much. I think we had gone to a high state function at the time, and I said, Dad, would we have been sitting here if your son had not started this thing? And he said, George, thank God that you followed your gut. And sometime basically meaning that, if you hadn't followed your gut, sometimes the closest people can come and try and blow that candle for that thing that they don't know is going to be the thing that's going to take care not of them, but many generations after. So people's opinions are always going to be there. They are always going to be there. And if you begin to listen too much to what people say about your life, and you let it determine where you go, you're going to live a very unfulfilled life. Because my father never knew entrepreneurship. He never once was involved in entrepreneurship.
In any
Therefore,
sense?
Never at all. My father was the assistant director at City of Harare Department of Housing. So he was a social worker. He understood corporate, and that's all he knew. So was my mom. She was a social worker. So in regards to entrepreneurship, because of their lack of exposure to it, they thought, like many parents today, no, don't do this. We know what is right for you. But I love the story similar to mine of a guy by the name of Joseph in the Bible who had a dream. And this was his dream shown to him by God, right? But then when he told people his dream, his own brothers, on top of it, his own father gathered his brothers to say, Imim,
come listen.
Uyai munzwe zuri kutaura Josepha mwana wangu. Come and listen to what he's saying. And because that dream and that life about Joseph was totally different and set apart compared to everybody else. The brothers were just workers, and that was that. But then there was something in Joseph which was different from everybody else. And God showed him that specific thing. And he communicated with the wrong people, unfortunately. He thought he was doing a good thing. But I love how, the Bible brings things in light that we are all going to face. I faced it. And I overcame it by sticking to my gut and following that thing, similar to what Joseph did. Even though he was ridiculed, all that happened in his life was all a fulfillment of purpose of God. I mean, we've got a similar story again about David. Right? David was sent food to his brothers who were at the war front, right? And then because he had experienced certain things, he said, listen, who is this? We all know the story about David and Goliath. And had David worn the king's uniform, had David listened to his brothers to say
that armor
that
was too big for him, too heavy for him.
The shield he couldn't even hold up.
Exactly.
The brothers' opinions that, hey, you just go back. You were sent with food. Go back. This is none of your business. And that's exactly what happens in life with the opinions of people. Now, the most important opinion that should matter in your life is the one that God gave you, right? God's opinion matters more than anything else. Now, people are so concerned with opinions of people who have not reached a certain level of success, right? They're listening to a street vendor on, hi, should I register my business and do this? Yet they have not done that.
That was actually...
They are so concerned with the opinions of people who haven't done what they want to do, and yet then they are led astray. But for me, one thing I say is that the number one most important opinion is the one that God has of you. And for you to be alive, it's not an accident. For you to be on earth, it means God sent you here for a specific mandate and purpose, right? But then what people then say to you will dwindle you and misdirect you to where you're supposed to go. So people have said so much, and friends, family, when I began, and had I not stuck true to what I believe, I've got so many stories regarding the opinions of people, especially with my journey with Pro Air, and how so many people shot it down. You're not even educated enough. You don't even have a university degree. You don't have capital. What are you going to do? Better you stay there and you feed your twins. But look now, many years later, by me following my gut and me sticking true to my own opinion. And I remember when we started Pro Air, I used to constantly say that Pro Air is going to be the top leading air conditioning company. That was my opinion of myself.
Yes.
And what I consistently declared and worked hard to. And then ultimately with time, it manifested and it came to pass. And this is where people lose it, because they are so concerned with what Nasipi says, with what Dad says, with what somebody else who's not gone on that journey or trajectory says.
I actually wanted to ask you about that. So would you say that evaluating the credibility and authority of someone's opinion is dependent on whether they've walked the road before? And I picked this up in your story with your father, because you had said that he had no experience of what it is you wanted to venture on. This is what he knew. And I find that a lot of the time when you are trying to take the path less traveled, you're often sharing it with people who don't share that same vision because they don't have the same experience. So they're mostly speaking out of fear and out of just lack of knowledge, because they don't know how it is you're going to do what you want to do, how you're going to succeed. They don't think you're going to be able to. So like, how do you evaluate the credibility of someone's authority or opinion?
I think what somebody has achieved and amassed is very important, especially with the information they feed in your life. Now, I have mentors, I have men of God, I have different individuals in my life who I give my ear to in regard to the journeys that they have traveled, and the advice that they give me is rich. Now, I always ask myself, and I question, there are many people who write books, right? Top 10 success principles, correct? But these people who write these books, do they have something that they have accomplished in their life which is successful?
Yes.
Or they're just writing a book just by mere facts?
I mean, I'd like to think yes.
You'll be very surprised, especially in this modern day and era. There are many authors and writers of information that they're giving people who are writing on the essence of just general knowledge, but they haven't practically achieved the things they're writing about. And for me, this is one thing I've deemed very important, especially to people. Many people are going to be led astray by people who so think that they've achieved something, and they will follow the things that they are saying. But then these people haven't actually started a business, run a successful business, and actually sustained the business to grow and become big. And yet that's the person that you're giving your ear and your heart and at mostly your life to. For me, deliberately, I only listen to the key opinions. And I've said this so many times that I am where I am today because of the sum total result of people I have let be a part of my life. And all these people are seasoned in whatever it is that they do.
Key word there, let be a part of your life.
Correct.
So I'd actually like to know, what factors do you need to take into consideration when you are going to reject or adopt someone's point of view?
Okay, so for me, I am a very analytic individual.
Okay.
I've spoken about the mentors I follow here in the country. There are so many to name. And all these specific individuals have certain traits that I look up to.
Okay.
They've gone through battles. They've faced challenges. They've gone through me as an entrepreneur, be it entrepreneurship I'm following them for, or marriage, or family, or sport, or whatever it is that they've achieved. That I look at them like, wow, I can learn something from this specific individual because I've understood who they are.
Okay.
When I see you, for instance, I understand that you've been in the media fraternity for a decade plus. There's a lot that you've understood. You faced good times, bad times. So if I want to get into media and this that you're doing, you're a good person to sit down and say, listen, I just started media. Tell me, the boss wasn't happy with this. How did you treat the boss shouting at you and cutting you off when you were wanting to do the show in your own specific way?
Yay!
You will then be able to say, no, George, I remember they didn't understand my flair and I let them be, but then I let it gradually get into until I became the top radio personality and presenter. But it took time. So there will be a lot to learn from a person like that. Then you're going to somebody who does not have valid experience, exposure, they haven't faced those challenges, which is why I always say, and this is such a very true statement, people who have not achieved much in life are the ones who have a lot to say.
I knew it. I knew that's how that
people,
sentence goes. They
right?
always have the most to say.
They have the most to say. So whenever you say, hey, I want to go the journalist track, but I want to do this, the ones who, and I so remember, I can hear the voices of people who said, hey, George, this is a good idea. Go for it. Those people up until now are very close. But there are people who I grew up with who were very against it, who, if you look at their lives today, they are probably still where I left them in 2012, still doing the same 8 to 5, living the same life, nothing progressive, staying in the same neighborhoods, and nothing is changing besides the gray hairs on their head and them aging and adding years. So you have to be very deliberate on who you give your ear to and your heart to, because mashoko evan wa entertainer make you become who you are. So if you today do a retrospect and an analysis of the people who you entertain, who are you giving your time and your ear to? These are people who are directly affecting where you end up. And the opinions of those people, you'll find out you end up doing the same things, similar traits and similar this, that, and the other. So it's so important that we begin as individuals to not care about the opinions of unproductive people. But like today on the show, you are here and you're listening to the opinions of George and Nasipi, who are telling you that, listen, all this information we're giving you is to provoke you, which is what we want you to actually happen in your life. We want you to be provoked so that you don't remain the same person, so that you are inspired. There's something in you that says, wait a minute, if George did it in 2012 and he stuck to his guts and he shut off all the opinions of these people, and now he's become who he is. And thirdly, it will equip you. You're now equipped with wisdom, with knowledge, from somebody who is not talking from book smart, somebody who is talking from practical, physical journey that he's traveled, which has led him to where he is today.
Thank you so much, George. Okay, I think there's a question that has come in on the WhatsApp, but we need to take just a quick break, the quickest break ever. And then we're going to answer this question when we get back. But the question is, so can someone's opinion be of value if they're not an expert in the field that you are wanting the advice from? So George is going to answer that after this. 4 minutes until the news at the top of the hour, so that gives George 3 minutes quickly. I think this is a very important question for him to answer, because not everyone who you trust to advise or that you would want advice from has any knowledge from what in the field that you're seeking advice in, right? But you just know that they are just like a thinker, you respect their opinions, you respect whatever values that you saw that this is the person that I should seek counsel from. So can you actually get advice from a person who has just zero expertise in the field?
So I love, in Proverb it says, in the multitude, right, of wise people there is counsel, right? And for me, some of the people who've sat me down and given me wisdom about business and life may not be specifically entrepreneurs, but they are great either in ministry, either in sport, either in media, because there's one key thing about the word called success, and it says that success leaves clues. As long as you're going on this journey called life, if you listen to the top 10 success principles of all the people who've ever lived, they are very similar, but they are all in different industries. There's hard work, discipline, persistence, perseverance, relationship, association, all of them. But then the key thing in life is that don't ever turn a blind ear or blind eye to wisdom, especially if it's coming from somebody who's seasoned in their craft. I'm one person who has made it a deliberate choice to only entertain and be surrounded by successful individuals, right, who I've seen and seen, wow, that's Philip Mataranyika, that's Philip Chiangwa, that's Sodwa Mkandla, that's Prophet Jubilee, that's Pastor Tom Dushel, that's whoever it is. And if those people have accomplished something, there's something I can learn from their many years of experience by having a sit down, by having a lunch with them, by asking them key important questions. And that's ultimately what will help you in a time where you're going to face that thing. And I've seen it's not necessarily to know they're not into air conditioning and refrigeration, so their advice is going to be senseless. Remember, outside work, there's a thing called life, and life is broad. So it's important to get as much counsel, wisdom, advice from people who you look up to. It's not everybody. Remember, it's whose opinion matters. For me, the most important opinion that matters is my own personal opinion of myself. Don't let other people's opinions become your reality. Had I done that many years ago, I wouldn't be here talking today. I wouldn't be providing air conditioning solutions for people wherever they are. But because I chose my personal opinion to say, you know what? I know I'm set here for a specific purpose and mandate, and I know it's going to excel and succeed. So don't listen to people's opinions, but listen most importantly to your inner man, because your inner man knows where you're supposed to go. Only let that which is people's opinions as wood, encouragement, take that into heart. But anything else that's negative, do not entertain that, and follow your gut and follow your own opinions.
Thank you so much, George. A comment from, I think this is Eunice. Oti, hi Nash, hi Uncle Billy. Indeed, that silent, peaceful, assuring, affirmative voice in your heart is God's voice, which one must consider over any other human opinion. One must also have a discerning spirit. Thank you so much, George. We're out of time. We will link up next week, Monday, with another very interesting, very impactful topic. Thank you again for your time.
Always.